Good morning. Thank you for joining us for the news as we bring you the latest update on TV3 New Day. My name is Roland Walker. Now coming up, task force constituted. Task force constituted to contain anthrax spread ahead of upcoming Islamic festival characterized by meat consumption. We'll tell you how the minority in parliament is demanding the arrest of leading members of the governing New Patriotic Party mentioned in Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng's illegal mining reports. In other news, officials of the National Disaster Management Organization are assessing the effects of recent floods in the Ketu South and Keta municipalities. On the international front, South Africa's lower house of parliament passes contentious universal healthcare bill described by the health minister as an historic moment for the country. In our first story, the minority in parliament is demanding the arrest of leading members of the governing New Patriotic Party mentioned in Professor Frimpong Boateng's illegal mining report. Ranking member of the Lands and Forestry Committee, Dr. Rashid Pelpo, addressed a news conference in parliament. Komala Kluche has more.
The special prosecutor may be busy going after state officials who may have contributed in diverse ways the distraction caused by Galamsey activities. The former chair to the interministerial committee fighting the Galamsey, Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng, has in recent time been chased and arrested by the special prosecutor, whilst Charles Bisu, who was also a secretary to the committee, is under some investigations. The minorities wading into this.
It is unthinkable that the state, including all its reserves, its lands, rivers, money, people, are left to an elected government to manage. And it turns out that the government itself is a key sponsor of the destruction and misuse of these resources. We believe that if government wants to demonstrate seriousness in the fight against Galamsey, it must go beyond the arrest of Professor Frimpong Boateng. It should go wider by ensuring the arrest of government and Jubilee appointees, which includes Mr. Gabi Ochiredako, the Director of Operations, Mr. Lord Comey, including Honorable Joseph Albert Kwam, who have all been cited by the committee. It is our opinion that a public inquiry on the committee reports and damage to our forest reserves is necessary, especially with the now wider destruction of our lands and rivers by Galamsey operators.
The Ministry of Health has redoubled its effort to contain the anthrax virus, which has already spread to 6 districts in the Upper East region. The Director for Public Health, Dr. Franklin Isiedu-Bequin, says the Ministry of Health is working hard to contain the spread. But a member of the Health Committee of Parliament, Dr. Market Nawadi, says the state is also not doing enough to contain the spread.
The main thing is now more of vaccination and then more surveillance to identify possible sick individuals and animals. So as at yesterday, I think they vaccinated about 21,000 animals, so it's still ongoing. So it's more of an health approach. So what they are doing is volunteers in these communities that are being trained to identify sick individuals, also to identify sick and diseased animals. We are putting the necessary measures so that maybe we don't go to a situation that it becomes a dire situation. There are clear directives, and what we need more is cooperation from the community to ensure that we adhere to the directives. If we adhere to the directives so that we don't have movement of animals, communities sensitized enough to report sick and diseased animals, then we can see that this outbreak will not travel that much.
When 10 people are infected with anthrax, you have 9 of them dying. And that is the seriousness of the situation. And so we should not take it for granted. If in the north, yes, the animals are dying, when we don't take time and we get these animals to the southern sector, when they come in, they are just slaughtered and eaten. It means that we will have a lot of human cases. We seem not to be handling the situation very well, even though the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Food and Agriculture through their veterinary services, the local government ministry have come in. It appears that they are not putting in enough resources to curtail this outbreak. We need to buy the vaccines to vaccinate the animals. We need to get to the root and identify where these animals were living and make sure that we fumigate the area. It is the way that we can stop the animal-to-animal transmission.
Meanwhile, the Office of the National Chief Imam is urging the Muslim community to respect the ban on movement and slaughtering of animals as they has been observed in affected parts of the country to help prevent the spread of the deadly anthrax virus. According to Sheikh Arimiyao Shaibu, the spokesperson for the National Chief Imam, Muslims must make public health a priority and also observe the protocols instituted to protect human lives. The call comes in the wake as Muslims prepare to observe the annual Eid al-Adha, which is also characterized by the slaughtering of animals.
Has to do more with the risk of the outbreak of the disease, because if the ban is not heeded to, and people, take some hidden routes in order that they will move with the animals to the down south, to where we are here, then what it means is that we will lose the battle of really containing the outbreak. And so from the briefing that we got, Chief Imam has made a commitment that he will make sure that all regional imams, will get the information and to educate the Muslims. Not even Friday congregation alone, but wherever there is a Muslim social gathering where such an information needs to be given, he will make sure that the information is given. I think that that is where we are at the moment. As human beings, we must live in order to be able to worship God. So if the outbreak of anthrax is such that we have to even avoid the eating of slaughtered cows, definitely that's what we must do so that we can save life. And there are alternatives. In fact, cows are not the only animals to be slaughtered, except because of the abundance of their meat.
Meanwhile, Dr. Benjamin Kisi-Sasu, the Risk Communications Officer for the Veterinary Services Directorate of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, says efforts are being made across the country, especially in outbreak areas, to contain the anthrax virus.
From the first update, which was done last week, which was released on the 6th of June, we had few districts. The good news is that we still have it only in one region, which is Upper East. Yet that we have had extra number of districts being added. So far, as of yesterday, per the update, we have 11 districts which had some form of cases in them. And the total number of animals affected in all these 11 districts is 90. The mass vaccination is ongoing and is going well. As of yesterday, we have had 21,263 animals vaccinated, out of which we have cattle, 6,987, goats, 7,304, sheep, 6,471, and that of pig, 501, be vaccinated. The vaccination continues. We're just waiting to get an update. A lot of sensitization and announcements is being made for people to bring their animals for the vaccination, as to help to contain the situation. And as it was being hinted, very soon we have 2 weeks to the Muslim feast day. And we all know that the northern part of our country serves a lot of these animals to our slaughter facilities. And also during such a feast, they would need these animals to celebrate All these are issues that we are looking at. And also with the Upper East sharing a border to another country too, we are also making sure that it doesn't get to another country because it will be the best. The good news is that Ghana, the veterinary service has the vaccine production unit, and we have one at Ponta Male, which is a central veterinary lab, and they have enough vaccines, so the country don't need to import vaccines into the country. So as it stands now, we want to encourage people to get their animals ready for the vaccination. They should try and go by the band and go by the rules guidelines, and in all, it will be done. The only thing that the public can do is we get by chance get to know of meat coming from a dead animal that were found dead or sick before they took the meat. They are not supposed to consume or get have a taste of it. If you have upon suspicion, you see people trying to get dead animals or sick animals being sold or being used to prepare food, get the necessary security informed, and will come to look at the situation.
This year's closed fishing season will commence on July 1 and end on August 1. Now, the Fisheries and Aquaculture Development Minister, Mavis Hawa-Kumson, who made this known at a media briefing, warned fishermen who flout the regulation would also be sanctioned.
In 2022, the country earned over $250 million from exports of fish and fishery products. It is therefore important that we manage our fisheries resources sustainably to promote the well-being of these communities. Canoe and inshore fishers will observe the closed season from the 1st of July to 31st of July 2023. Industrial trawlers will also observe the closed season from 1st July to 31st of August 2023.
The minister noted that Côte d'Ivoire would also observe the ban.
Following consultations, Côte d'Ivoire will implement their 2023 closed season within the same period as Ghana. Next year, we expect Togo, Benin, and Liberia to join.
A report on the 2022 closed season by Fisheries Scientific Survey Division of the Fisheries Commission showed an improvement in fish stock after the season.
In other news, hate speech in Ghana is being exacerbated by the growing media space on partisan lines. And that's according to the Executive Director for the Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleiman Abraima. He made the assertion on the sidelines of a public forum in Accra.
Hate speech, defined as any form of communication that attacks or discriminates against individuals or groups based on their identity factors, has become an international threat to peace and security. Ghana has not been immune to this trend, with language and expressions that are insulting, defamatory, and ethnically derogatory.
Generally around the world, there's a phenomenon of democratic recession. Even in much more consolidated environments, such as in the US, we saw the storming of Congress. And in our own region here, we know about the situation of insurgent groups and what is happening in the Sahel region. Our democracy is not immune to these challenges that other countries are going through. And one of the major threats that we face is the phenomenon of hate speech, which is far-rising. As a people, we have basically one response to that. And that response is how we collectively act in a way to make the phenomenon of hate speech and abusive politics unattractive. I believe that if those who are put in power know that one sure way of losing power is to make the people feel that what you do is to insult people, attack people, incite violence, I'm sure they will move away from that kind of phenomenon.
The forum on the theme, Media, Hate Speech and Democratic Consolidation in Ghana, brought together 150 participants, including governance and media experts, legal professionals, civil society organizations, political parties, journalists, as well as human rights advocates, to achieve several objectives.
Officials of the National Disaster Management Organization are assessing the effect of recent floods in the Ketu South and Keta municipalities. Over 3,000 individuals in some 20 settlements in the two areas have been displaced due to continuous rains over the last 2 weeks.
The situation has halted economic activity in the area, and some schools have been temporarily closed due to elevated water levels affecting teaching and learning.
Today we have to write exam. They have to go to the JHS block before they can write exam.
The floods have damaged electricity poles.
We are expecting from them to come and then remove the cable for now. That when they are ready, they can come and then fix it. And so I think the manager is aware and is working on that.
Residents had to rely on canoes, while those without access to canoes were forced to walk on dangerous metal railings.
So I asked them to release those kids to be in the house because even Friday they'll be vacating on Friday. So there is no difference between today and Friday. Looking at the water level, I don't think we have to allow them to come in. So they have agreed to let the lower level be in the house while the JSS who are writing their exams, they can manage it themselves.
The Volta Regional Director of NADMO, Ivy Amewuga, decried the situation.
So hopefully I'll put in a request, and then I'm hoping, because I've already informed the headquarters of what is happening. They are also on standby to get this report.
On the international front, South Africa's lower house of parliament has also passed a contentious universal health care bill described by the health minister as an historic moment for the country. The National Health Insurance Bill seeks to give South Africans of all races, rich or poor, and legal long-term residents access to quality health care. This is in accordance with the Constitution adopted after Nelson Mandela was democratically elected as president back in 1994, following the end of white minority rule. The country is still considered one of the most unequal societies in the world, with a huge wealth gap, and 84% of South Africans also relying on often poor quality public health care. The bill intends to create one public health fund for private and public health care providers, a pool of money to be funded through general taxes, contributions from those earning above a set amount, and monthly contributions from employees. And that's it for the latest news updates on TV3 New Day. Well, we have to go for a break. When we come back, we'll bring you more details.
I want you so bad, Alpha Cracker. I want you. I wanna say yes, I can't resist. I want you. Ooh, I want you, Alpha Cracker. I want you so bad, Alpha Cracker.
Have a goodness rich in milk and butter in Alpha Cracker.